I'm joined via Skype with Batanai Matsika, the head of research at Morgan & Co., live from Harare. Batanai, thank you very much for joining us. How exactly is this going to work? It seems to me a very strange halfway house.
Okay, so what has happened, of course, last 2 weeks we were talking about rumors of a new currency. So last week, on the 24th of June, there was a statutory instrument that was actually put up by government to say that they're going to ban the use of multi-currencies. That's your USD, SA rand, and any other foreign currencies for local transactions. So it simply means that on the local side of things, transactions will strictly be in Zim dollar. But of course, individuals still have access to what are called Nostro FCAs, which means that they can deposit hard FX in Nostro accounts and still have access to it. So basically, what we are picking up from the development is that there was a lot of pressure on the part of government, given, of course, the larger populace still ends in RTGS or in the local currency. But given the re-dollarization of the economy, where pricing was predominantly around the USD, and there are also a lot of inflationary pressures that are coming in, especially when you then look at the parallel market rates. So that's the new development that has come through, and we've seen a lot of volatility on the market, of course, following this new reform.
Question is, why didn't the finance minister announce this when they announced the new measures? Surely it looks a bit like second thoughts.
Yes, I mean, that also raises a lot of questions, especially on the part of business, because the sentiment was that you can only reintroduce a new currency once the fundamentals are right. If you're looking at key economic indicators, your GDP growth, and even things such as FDI, Zimbabwe is quite on the low side. And even looking at the political state of things, looking at sanctions and confidence levels, they're quite on the low side. So the questioning is really on the timing to say that, yes, there were a lot of pressures, especially from households and individuals, and also the risk of social unrest. But then it doesn't really make economic sense to just push through for a new currency when the confidence is very low.
And that's another point. I mean, people are still going to be paying for their inputs in US dollars. I mean, countries outside Zimbabwe, they don't particularly care what currency you're using, and yet you're going to be getting your revenue in RTGS. Isn't that still going to cause major problems?
Yes, that's the risk that companies are sitting on right now, because what had happened is that they actually had another avenue to actually earn hard FX through USD pricing. So that was good. They could actually price products on the domestic market in USD, raise a bit of FX and use that towards imports. But now that has been taken away, which means that the only source for FX would be the interbank market, which is controlled by the RBZ. And looking at the numbers that we've seen in the past months or so, liquidity has been quite strained on that part. So it's going to be a challenge, especially for importing companies to have access to FX. So the net result, of course, will be shortages and also the likelihood of closures or even retrenchments. So that's the expectation there.
And also, very finally and briefly, you've got all kinds of other problems as well. You've got power cuts. You've got runaway inflation. It's about near 90%. How is the economy faring on the ground?
I think in terms of business, I mean, things are not looking quite interesting, given, of course, just the costs around operating. For example, there are a lot of shortages. Fuel prices have also been going up. And the tax environment as well, we're looking at fuel tax, we're looking at the IMT tax. So in terms of boosting productivity, these reforms definitely have not done much. I think what is really needed for Zimbabwe to move forward is to probably negotiate something around a bailout package that would definitely help revitalize industries and also have the buy-in of the companies that actually produce on the ground.